question that is from the spring. This is a question that's from 2016 retake. And basically, I want to define a min-max function recursively, which takes in a sequence, such as this one, 1, -2, and 3. And I want to return a tuple of the minimum and maximum item, which is -2 and 3 in this case. There's some starter code given for us. And yeah, so let's begin. So if I want to define this function recursively, then the first thing I had to do is define the base case. And the base case condition is already given for us if the length of the sequence is only 1. If the sequence only has 1 item, what do I want to return? Well, I want to return a tuple of the minimum and maximum item, and it makes sense that if the sequence only has 1 item, then that 1 item is both the minimum and the maximum. So I return a tuple of the first item in the sequence, and the first item in the sequence again as minimum and maximum. Else, what should I return? Well, here is where the recursive leap of faith comes in. First of all, I know that I have to use min-max, okay? And second of all, I know that whatever I put into min-max, it has to be a smaller case that eventually reaches down to the base case of where length of the sequence is equal to 1. And I also know that because of recursive leap of faith, I trust that min-max is going to return a tuple of the minimum item and the maximum item. Okay, and so let me define two variables over here, mini, and I'm going to define another variable called maxi. Mini is going to find out for me what is the minimum item. All right, so when I want to find out the minimum item of the list, if I want to break this problem into a smaller problem, then maybe I might want to compare the first item of the sequence, which is S bracket 0, with min-max called on the rest of the list using S1 colon bracket. Okay, I trust that min-max is going to return the minimum and maximum item tuple of this sequence. And so in order to access the minimum item of this sequence, of this tuple, I'm going to put bracket 0. And I want to compare the first item with whatever this tuple's first item minimum returns, right? And so to do that, I will probably use the inbuilt Python function of min. So I'm going to find out the minimum comparison between the first item of the sequence versus min-max called on the rest of the sequence, which returns the tuple. So I want to access the first item, which is the minimum item of that sequence. Okay, and so very similarly for maxi, I'm going to use the inbuilt function of max, and I'm going to compare it with the first item of the sequence versus the maximum item from the rest of the sequence, which I can access by calling min-max on S1 to the rest of the sequence and accessing the second item, which is the maximum item. And so when I come down to my return statement, I will just return a tuple of mini and maxi. All right. Yeah, so hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. But let me visualize execution for you just to make sure that it really works. So if I step to the last thing in the program, I'm going to go back a step. You can see over here that when I call a min-max function, the return value is -2 and 3, which is exactly what I want to return.